Welcome back to another video. If this is the first video that you're seeing, hello, thank you for joining. My name is Emily, I'm a slow runner and I make videos all about embracing your pace no matter what that is. Every runner truly has a place. Speaking from experience, running can be incredibly overwhelming when you feel like the odd one out. I basically wanted to put together a video that I wish I had when I first started running. I'm basically going to tell you everything that you need to know to survive running as a slow runner. What does that mean? It means how can I make it easier? How can I care less about my pace? How can I get the most out of my runs? And also like finding your why for running, because I do also think that that is really important as a slow runner, because running is hard and being a slow runner just makes it all the more complicated. This is probably going to be a bit of a longer video. I've put chapters at the bottom, so if there's anything specifically that you're wanting advice on, you should be able to find it below. And this video is basically intended for, like, there's some parts of this that might not apply to your running journey right now. I'm basically going to start like at the very start of my running journey and talk you through everything that I've learned up to doing kind of an ultramarathon.
She's done it!
I've done it. So there's going to be a lot of topics covered. So if there's something in this video that doesn't apply to you, make sure to check back. As you kind of experience new things in your running journey, there's other parts of this video that will apply to you. So grab a little cup of tea or a wine and let's get into it. I think the first thing that I want to really get across is just like how to get comfortable with your running pace. And I know that running, and I think sport in general, praises people that are very good at it. Which is fine, you know, but I also think that the majority of people running are just normal everyday runners like you and me. You know, we're not trying to get certain PBs all the time. We're not actually racing. It's more for like our own self-development and goals that we have. And I think that's really important to remember, because not everybody is out there running for times or for distance, and that doesn't make them any less of a runner. Everybody has their own reasons for starting to run. For me, I was just like really stubborn. I felt like running was something that I couldn't do and I would never be able to do. And one day I just decided to go out and do it and sign up for a marathon and really prove to myself that I could do it. And that was my why. And I really think that when you start running, having a stronger why makes it easier to stick to running, because you can always come back to that. So maybe just have a think of that like throughout the video. And yeah, it's not something that you need the answer to now. And as you start running, you might find things that you didn't think you would get out of running, and then that might become your why. It's very much like a learning curve with running. There's no right or wrong. So I think a really good place to start will be just talking about the facts. So it feels like every runner out there is incredibly fit and they're running really fast and really far. And actually only 1% of people in the world will do a marathon. And I know a marathon is an extreme example, but I think it's important to bring up because social media, and my social media included, and to be fair, I'm probably guilty of this because I have run a marathon, but social media is full of people running marathons and it feels like everybody's doing it, but it's just an echo chamber. Don't feel like you're the odd one out if you haven't yet done a marathon, or if you've got absolutely no desire to do a marathon. That is fine. Not everybody is running a marathon. It's not for everyone, and that's fine. Another thing that I used to really struggle with was specifically my 5K time. And I have never been able to run a sub 30-minute 5K. And I always felt like people were doing that like it was nothing. And I was like, how? But, and I'm just talking about women here, the average 5K time for a woman is between 36 to 37 minutes. So actually not everybody is running at the pace that we think that they are. And again, I just think it comes down to this kind of like bias for people that can do things incredibly well. And that's why we see more of it. We are the majority. The people that like don't really consider themselves runners, even though you are, or faster runners, we are the majority of runners. It's just we only see this like tiny percentage of people that excel in the sport. When I found out that that was like the average 5K time, you do find a lot of comfort in that. And even if your 5K time is slower than 36 to 37 minutes, it doesn't make you a bad runner, because remember, most people aren't even running. So you're already ahead of where you think you are. This links into kind of owning your pace, and I think there's two types of slow runners, and this is important to address because, so group one, and I'm obviously generalising here, there's many different types of runners, but just entertain me. Group 1 of slow runners are runners that are maybe newer to running and they want to get faster eventually. They're just starting off, where they're starting off. And their goal is to get a certain PB. And then there's another type of runner, which I would consider myself to be more in the second group. And that is that they are running for different reasons other than to get faster or to sign up to a certain race. And both of them are very similar in the fact that they're runners. They just have different goals. It's obviously like sometimes you might start off as a slow runner thinking that you're not bothered about timings or anything, but then you might care about running faster later down the line, and like that is fine. And I just think that that's really important to address, because it's important to recognize that not everybody is running for the same reasons. Some people might be slow and they're fine with being slow and they've got literally no desire to get fast, because running for them is about, I don't know, using it as a way to get out of the house for 20 minutes, or like they just actually like being outside for longer because it means that they get longer to themselves. They can listen to their podcast. They can kind of just escape from the real world for a bit. So yeah, if whichever group you're in, you're a runner, and we shouldn't look down on either group of people because both are valid. I get asked a lot about how I got over, being embarrassed by my slower pace. And honestly, the truth is that it's a work in progress. And even now there are times where I don't feel like I belong in the fitness world. and I've been running now for 2.5 years, and my whole message is about embracing your pace. But I think it just is human nature to want to do well, whatever that might look like. So the only way that you're going to get comfortable with your pace is you just keep going out and you just keep running. And even when it feels like you really want to give up, or you're having days where you're speaking really negatively to yourself, it's just overcoming that inner voice and doing it anyway. That is the only way that you're going to overcome it. You're not going to overcome it by staying at home and not running, but wishing that you could, but you can't because you're slow. I don't think it's just restricted to slower runners. I think as a runner, at some point, you will feel that sense of comparison and not feeling good enough. But that's why we run, because then we can overcome that feeling and then it feels great. So one thing that I really struggled with when I first started running was figuring out what my easy pace was. So if you've already got a training plan or you've dabbled in different types of runs, you might already know this, but for anybody that doesn't know, there are a few different types of runs that you can do throughout a training block, or just to kind of mix it up really and just to keep things fresh. So there's easy runs, and you've got kind of like speed runs, which are your tempo and interval runs, and then long runs. I'm sure there's others, but those are the main ones that I do. And I do want to talk about easy runs because I did not know what my easy pace was when I first started running. And I think because I knew I was already slow, and I was like, well, I can't run slower. Like, that would be embarrassing and weird. And your easy pace is probably going to be quite a bit slower than the pace that you're already running at. If you're finding yourself kind of like out of breath, struggling to hold a conversation, then you're probably running too fast for easy type runs. So one thing that I would recommend, and I've done this before, like I did it and it did feel really weird, but I promise it helps. So basically, if this is you, this might not be you, but if you fall into this category of, oh my God, no matter what pace I run at, it's too hard, go out and just run as slow as you possibly can. It might just be just past walking. The point is, it will feel weirdly slow. And I think when you feel a bit weird doing it, that's probably where the sweet spot is, because you've not ran that slow before. So go out, run as slow as you possibly can, and just see how it feels. Kind of think about, okay, well, I'm 1 kilometre in now, or I'm 600 metres in, or however far. What do I usually feel like when I'm this far in? And I think you'll feel a lot better. That is, finding my easier pace is what really made me start to love running, because I was just going out too fast all the time because I was embarrassed to run at what my easy pace was. Have a bit of a play about with it. It is trial and error. It might take a while to find a pace that feels comfortable to you, but when you find it, I think you're going to have a better run than you had before. And just remember, like, everybody starts somewhere. So these easy runs are really going to help you feel more confident running at a slower pace. And also they will build up your fitness. So yeah, give that a go. I'm going to very briefly talk about Runner just because I do talk about it all the time, and this isn't an ad. I obviously do work with them, but I don't need to include them in this video. But it is the training app that I've been using since I started running, and I honestly wholeheartedly believe in the app. Great thing about Runner is that it is so customizable. You put your paces in, and then as you start running, it will also adapt the paces based on your current performance, if that makes sense. They've recently introduced, I say recently, maybe in the last few months, have released something that you can make it even more customizable, so you can choose the intensity of it. So like you could really go hard in your training, or you can do something a bit more chill, which I really appreciate because not every training block I want to be going all out. I've left a link in the description, so if it is something that you want to check out, you'll get 2 weeks free. Yeah, I'm just sharing that because I as a slow runner, I genuinely love the app, and it's the best thing that I've tried for running plans. Whether or not you choose to use Runner is up to you, but just then please make sure whatever you're using, the paces are adapted to how you are running right now, not what speed other people are running at online, or not where the pace that you want to be running at. You need to start where you are now, otherwise you're going to feel really disheartened. Running is going to feel harder than it already is, and it's just not going to be the like introduction to a training plan that you want. I'm now going to go into signing up for races. I'll also cover kind of more long distance running. So if you're not signing up for a race but you want to do long distance running and you want tips on how to get through it as a slow runner, this will still apply to you. So maybe now we're like, okay, I want to sign up to some races. I've been running for a while. I kind of got my groove a bit and I want to see what the fuss is about, or I want to keep myself accountable because I need the motivation. So I'm going to sign up to a race. Let's talk races as a slow runner. So one of the biggest things that I learn is that there are cut-off times in races, and you might be thinking, yeah, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't even think. I just thought like everybody got to finish no matter what time. What a nice world that would be. So my biggest tip would be find a race that you want and just try and find the cutoff time. It's usually in like FAQs, or if it's not, you could email the race organisers. But there will be cutoffs for like 99% of races, and they do differ depending on how big the race is, where it is in the UK, where it is in the world, because I think different countries kind of have like, I don't know, just different preferences or standards. I don't really know. I know that people, myself included, get really nervous about cutoff times, especially if you are, you know, close to that cutoff. I remember I did Barcelona half marathon this year and the year before, and I'm pretty sure the cutoff is 2 hours 45. It might be 3 hours, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 hours 45. And the first year I ran it in 2 hours, just over 2 hours 30. And then this year I ran it in like 2 hours 40 something. So I was close. So things like, it just gives you extra stress on race day. So if you are able to find a race that is accessible to you and that has a more generous cutoff time, I would recommend doing that, just because like, especially if it's your first race or you've done multiple races but you still get a bit nervous about cutoff times, if you can give yourself a bit of a buffer, it's just going to make you feel a little bit more relaxed on race day, which is already kind of like a nerve-wracking experience even if you're not racing. I do think cutoff times are a big barrier to entry for big events, and we would love to see more people there, but we've got to lower those barriers so that people can feel a little bit more comfortable. If you're on the fence about signing up for a race, I totally get it. And this isn't me telling you that you need to sign up for a race, because it's your life. But if you're worried about showing up to a race and being really slow, or not feeling like you are a runner, or you look like a runner, or you feel like a runner, just go and watch a race. Like if you're in London, try and watch some of the big half marathons coming up, or London Marathon next year. If you are in a town, try and go down to like a local run or even a park run. If you go there, you will see so many different types of runners to what you see online. I promise you, every time. I remember when I did my first marathon, I was amazed at how many different body types there were, different ages. And I'm not saying that lightly. Like I was like, oh shit, like what we see about running online is just like a slither of real life runners. So if you are feeling a bit nervous, but you kind of have that like, oh, I really want to sign up to a race, but I'm not sure. If you can, try and take yourself to watch a race. I think it will change your perception of what races are and what races can be. We're now going to talk about how to get through longer runs. Now, when I say longer runs, it's obviously quite subjective. This, I think, applies to any run that feels long to you. And I've obviously, like, ran for a very long time, you know, in big chunks. So, like, the longest time I've ever been on my feet for, obviously didn't run the whole thing. I was run walking. But I did a 50k ultramarathon and I was out for 7 hours and 20 minutes, something around that. I think I've got some experience in, like, the mental side of being a slow runner, trying to get through a race, feeling frustrated because everybody else has finished or most people have finished and you're still plugging away. So I just want to talk about how you can make some of your longer runs easier. There's a few things I think we can touch on: the mental tips and physical tips. We'll start with mental. So if you're following some sort of training plan, every week you shouldn't be increasing your total mileage or kilometers by a lot, which means that your longest run that you do should only increase by 1 or 2 kilometers every week. That's what my plans have been like anyway, and I just prefer it that way. The more that you run, the more you're also kind of like exercising your brain and training your brain to cope being on your feet for longer. Part of it is just going out and running and like embracing every week you're running that little bit further, and you will get used to it. Like, I remember when I was training for the marathon, and there was a point where for like 5 weeks every weekend I was running above a half marathon up to my longest run, which was 32k. And it got to the point where I was seeing 15-kilometer runs as a short run, which is actually insane, because the thought of a 15-kilometer run right now, I can't even comprehend running that, because I haven't run it in a few months. Honestly, it is just a case of getting out, and you'll actually be amazed at how well your brain and your body adapts to little increases every week. So we're increasing our, mileage and long runs step by step, which will help us. But there's also other things that we can do as well. So things that I like to do are, I used to think that having just distractions all the time would be really helpful in the form of like a podcast or an album, or an audiobook. But for me personally, what I found is that I like to run maybe half of the run. It depends on the day. I like to get some of the distance covered, not listening to anything. And it's not because I want to torture myself. It's because I get to a point where if you say you're running 10k, for example, you might want to run 7k with nothing. And then it really gives you that last push for the last 3 kilometers when you then have some sort of like distraction or like stimulus. You're going to get to a point, especially if you're running for hours potentially, that you've used everything up in your little like entertainment cheat book, and then you're like, I'm actually really bored now. So get to a point where you're losing the will to live, essentially, is what I'm trying to say, to be honest. And then, bring in the Taylor Swift Life of a Showgirl album, which isn't out as I'm recording this, but future people who are watching this, it's out. Bring in all these things that you like to listen to that make, running more enjoyable. It's you can kind of switch your brain off a little bit. You can have a bit of a distraction, and I found that to be super, super beneficial. And that's only something that I actually started to do quite a while after I'd started running. I felt like it was a little cheat that I'd learned, that like, don't try not to listen to stuff for the whole of the run. Just bring it in when you really need it. The next thing that you can do, which is a bit of a mental game, which is always fun, is break down the run. So like, never think of a run as the whole distance. So if you're running 15 kilometers, and also I have to say that this will be different for everybody, and also you really need to break it down into what is doable in your mind. So me saying 15k, okay, 10k and then a 5k, for you might be like, a 10k is a marathon. Then don't break it down like that. Break it down into smaller chunks. So you could say, it's 3 5Ks if a 5K seems like a doable distance to you, or it's, 3 park runs if you do park run. You really just need to break it down into something that your brain isn't terrified of. It really, really helps. And then you would never think of your full distance run. You would go out and you'll be running and you'll be thinking, okay, I'm running a 5K. And then when that 5k is done, you guessed it, it's another 5k. It's never a full distance. It's never a full 15k. It's never a full half marathon. That is one thing that I found that like genuinely does make a difference. It's like treat it as little races rather than one big race. I found that to be incredibly helpful. And again, break it down into however you want to break it down. Don't break it down into what I find works for me. It's all so personal. Okay, going into the more like physical side of what you can do as a slow runner to survive on longer runs. One thing that I do really want to mention, that I've mentioned before, and I'm gonna say it again, is walk breaks. I don't know, but I feel like as a slower runner, I really benefit from walk breaks, because if I was to run at the same average pace constantly that I would do for my run, like for my average run walks, I would still feel better, more energized, more positive run walking, because I just feel like I conserve so much more energy when I do run walks. So basically, if you don't know what run walking is, it's also known as jeffing, and it basically means that you have set run walk intervals that you do on repeat to get you to the end of the run. So for example, like you might run for 4 minutes and walk for 1 minute. That is something that I use in training runs. It's something that I use in actual races. It's just the way that I prefer to run. I also tend to run faster overall. Like my average pace is faster when I use walking breaks, which might seem quite crazy, but all of my PBs, apart from my 5k PB, have all been from run walking. You just have to try it for yourself. I've made numerous videos on run walking. I'll link them below because I don't want to spend too much time talking about it in this video. Similar to kind of breaking the runs down, the good thing about run walking is that no matter how, so say your interval is 4 minutes of running, I literally will say to myself in my head and sometimes out loud if I'm like in the trenches, I can do anything for 4 minutes. I can do anything for 4 minutes. And I just keep saying it in my head over and over and over again. And then you're rewarded with a walk break, and the rest and like rejuvenation that those walk breaks give you are honestly priceless. Like they're so good, and it keeps me fresher for longer. It can reduce your chance of injury. I think increases morale, but that's my opinion. So yeah, have a little go over run walk breaks. If you want to know more, there is a video linked below for you to have a look and figure out what that might look like for you. So, and other things that you can do that are super important if you're on your feet for a long time is hydration. So making sure you're drinking enough water, but also food, which is good because it means we can eat a lot. So I do want to say that I am obviously not a dietitian, so I only have very limited knowledge on this topic. So I would encourage you to do your own research and take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Some of it is based on what I've been told by dietitians, but also based on what I found that works for me personally. And obviously, we're also different. So please do your own research. Usually, as a rule of thumb, if you're out for over an hour, they say you make sure that you eat during the runs. I only really start fueling for runs, as in like eat during a run, if I'm running over a 10k. A 10k for me would probably take about an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. So I know I'm like kind of breaking the rules there, but personally, like I just don't feel the need, especially if it's just like a run that I'm going out, you know, it's not like a race or anything, or I'm not going for a PB, which happens very rarely. I won't like eat during, I won't have a gel or sweets during a 10k run. I'll do it for like anything above that really. But I will always eat before, I think, especially as women. I know men can be a bit different. I really enjoy like overnight oats as a staple that I have every morning, even if I'm not running, to be fair. Peanut butter on a bagel with some jam is also really great. But again, experiment with what works for you pre-run. And then during the run itself, it's recommended that you have 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour. And that is a lot, like I'm not going to lie, and it might sound like a lot. But one thing that I really want to flag is that if you're seeing people who are running a half marathon in an hour and a half, they might only have like 2 or 3 gels, or they might only have the equivalent of 2 or 3 gels in different types of food throughout their run. We're on our feet for longer, so I always feel like I need more food. So that is just really something to be aware of, is that try not to copy what other runners who are very different to you are doing on their runs, and really trial and error it, baby. It all comes down to trial and error. I tend to aim for 60 grams of carbs per hour. I think for me that was kind of the sweet spot, and I would rather have food little and often. So like maybe every half an hour I would eat, like I quite like the chews that you can get rather than gels. I don't mind gels, but I like to have a bit of variety on the runs. That is just something to consider. I'm not giving you the answers here. I'm just saying, remember that we're going to be on our feet for longer, and you likely will need more fuel than someone who runs at a faster pace than you. So just keep that in mind when you're planning what you're going to eat on your longer runs. And the same goes, I think, for hydration as well. I think it's always better to go into a race hydrated than like getting into a race dehydrated and trying to drink loads of water on the run, because it's going to make you feel a bit crap. If you're planning to do a race, the best advice that I can give you is start like practicing fueling for your long runs during your training. Don't wait until the race day to try different foods for the first time. You want to know what you can have for breakfast, what gels or sweets or chews that you can have during the race, and what you can eat after probably as well, you can have without fucking your stomach up, because long distance running, it can be really, really intense on your gut, especially if you already have a really sensitive stomach. So if you really want to just have the confidence on race day that, you know, nothing is going to go wrong, if you know what I mean, then try practicing fueling on your longer runs. And it might be that you have to try a lot of different gels or real foods to figure out what your body likes. Again, I've said so many times in this video, we're all so different. So start now if you've already got a race planned. Okay, up next, it's race day, baby. Let's talk about race day tips as a slower runner. Pre-race nerves are so normal. It is normal to think, I'm so slow. It's normal to worry about the cutoff time. It's normal to doubt yourself on race morning, but you're going to be fine. You've done your training, I hope, and you will be fine. And there are going to be so many other runners out there that are in the exact same position as you. You're fine. You're good. Chill. One thing that can happen at the start line is it's really exciting, and there might be a lot of adrenaline and a lot of build up and waiting around, because sometimes you have to wait around for fucking ages before you can actually start racing. But it kind of like gives you this like you need to get all this energy out, all these nerves out, and that might mean that you want to start going faster than you have done in your training at the very start. We're not going to do that. My advice at the start of a race is go slower than what you think, and make sure that it is a comfortable pace that your body can kind of like, you know, get a bit looser, warm up to. And there will be people at the start that shoot past you. Like, it's a given. There's always going to be someone that's faster than you, so try not to get too bogged down in it. And try and remember, you're running your own race. You're not racing with anybody else apart from yourself. There's nothing worse than shooting off at the start. You'll feel good because the excitement will be there and the adrenaline, but it'll get to a point where you really start to get fatigued, and then any race plan that you've created has gone out of the window. And for me, that's where I really start to worry and to not enjoy it. I find that if I stick to the plan that I've made for myself, it's a bit more easygoing in a sense. Like, I know what to expect, I know what I've decided to do, but it does take a lot of willpower to stick to that plan. When I was running the Barcelona half, I had planned to run walk both times. And I think I ran for the first kilometre just to kind of like, at the start there will be, depending on how big the race is, but there usually is quite like a big bunch of people together before it kind of spreads out. So I didn't want to like have to start walking and kind of piss people off towards the start. So I ran for a kilometre and then went into my run walk breaks. And it did feel really alien to start walking within the first kilometre, because people might think like, what are they doing? Like, why is that person walking so early on? But you really just need to stick to your guns and remember, like, this is what you want to do and this is what's going to get you over the finish line. And when you get to the end, or when you get 3/4 of the way through, you're really going to thank yourself for sticking to the plan. Otherwise, it might have gone south. And if you do have that extra energy towards the end, by all means, you know, speed up and get to that finish line. But at the start, just be mindful that we're running our own race, and we are not going to speed up just because we feel like we should. And then in your races, depending on the distance, obviously, just apply everything that you have learned in your training runs as a slower runner. And I think what you'll find is that actually the training runs, this is obviously if you're deciding to do a race, a lot of your training runs will be so much harder than the race itself. I've always found that, like, I would say for pretty much every race that I've done, I think the training has been the hardest part. If you can get through your training, even if it's filled with tears and negative talk and why the fuck did I sign up for this? That's actually quite normal. It's very normal, actually. That is what training is. Training is really hard. It's going to test your patience. It's going to test your fitness. It's going to test your mental strength. That's what the training is there for. So just try and remember everything that you've gone through in those longer runs. You know, when it gets hard in a race, think about the tough moments that you had in training and how you overcame that and you ended up at the start line ready to race, something that you thought maybe you'd never be able to do. If you've got a good race where there's a lot of supporters, chances are your mood will be so much higher than any of the training runs, and you'll find the adrenaline will probably make you slightly faster than what you have done in any training runs. A lot of my training runs for the marathon were done at over an 8 minute per kilometre pace, especially for my longer runs. And my marathon pace, I'll have to put it on the screen, but it was around 7:30 or 7:40 per kilometre. And that was purely just on the adrenaline. Like, I knew my friends and family were there. You also rest quite a bit before your race day, so I was running on fresh legs rather than running on really tired legs like you do in training. So just try and enjoy the race. That's all I can say, especially if it's one of your first races, no matter what the distance is. You really want to have good memories from it. No matter how slowly you get to the finish line, that feeling of finishing and getting that medal and like the atmosphere, nobody can take that away from you. Like, you've done it and you should be incredibly proud, and you will be incredibly proud. And it's a great feeling. If you've not experienced it yet, I'm really excited that you get to do that for the first time. I feel like I haven't stopped speaking for such a long time. So thank you for sticking with me on this. I really hope that I've covered everything that I need to cover as a slow runner to make you guys feel more confident, or just have something that you can come back to throughout your running journey. If there's anything that I've forgotten or any tips and tricks that you've picked up as a slow runner, please, please, please share them in the comments so that everybody else watching this can, hear from other runners, because I'm not the only slow runner in the world. There are so many runners like me, and I want to hear from you. There's so many other things that I think I could have spoken about, but I just wanted to get out the main things, and then maybe at some point I can do a part 2 if there's anything else that needs to be covered. I'm more than happy to do that. One thing that I want to leave you guys with is, just because you're a slower runner doesn't mean that running is easy. Like, we're all just running to the best of our abilities, and that's all we can do. I actually think that being a slower runner is incredibly hard, because not only do you have that self-doubt, but also we're on our feet for a long time. Training and just running in general takes up more time, and you need to build a certain resilience that other runners might not have because you're out for longer. So keep that in mind. It's like, yeah, I ran, it took me twice as long to do this run than it did for someone else. But also, not a lot of people could stay out for that long and make themselves finish that run, or even attempt it knowing how long it's going to take. And that in itself is incredible. And I don't think slower runners or more average runners are applauded enough for that. So I want to leave that with you. It doesn't need to be about pace if you don't want it to be about pace. It's just about resilience, and it's about showing up, and it's about how can I make running part of my life, not my whole life. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Remember that you can always check back to it if there's things in this video that aren't relevant to you right now but might be in the future. And I would really appreciate it if you could leave a comment, a like, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. If this is the first video that you've watched and you've watched the whole video, thank you. Please let me know if you've done that. Basically, if you don't know what to expect from this channel, I basically just document my journey as a slower runner. I do a lot of kind of like weekly training vlogs where I'll bring you along for all of my runs that week and just chat through what that's like as a slower runner. And there's a really lovely community of us on here as well, and everybody is willing to help out and have a chat in the comments. So if that sounds like your thing, it's all the more reason to give me a subscribe. I also do like a live Q&A once a month where I'll just choose a topic and we'll come together. It's usually a small group of us, which is really, really nice. And you can also watch it on a replay if you're not available, which is what most people do. And we just have a chat and we just share our experiences. And it's just a way for me to actually speak to you guys, because a lot of it is very kind of one way with these videos, which, you know, I do like, but it's also great to have that one-on-one time. So pause. My mouth is so dry. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope that you found it helpful, and I will see you in the next video.